Hey guys, good afternoon, good evening, or good morning whenever you're checking out this next video. Just a reminder for you, this was your homework that you had to do before you advanced on to the next portion of the lesson. So this is now day 2 in terms of what we're going to be doing in for the lesson. So today's objective, or the I can statement, is what we're going to do is we're going to analyze a population map and try to explain why people are located where they are. And then what we're also going to do is we're going to look at trends and maps of the populations of people in Africa as well. So the first map I'd like to show to you guys is a population map of Africa. If you look over to your left, it says population density in terms of 2,000 people. So the darker the color, the more populated that it is. And if what you guys, I hope that you'll be able to see is probably the darkest areas are probably between the 100 to 250 or the 50 to 100. And those areas right here, probably more or less down here, right here, and then maybe right up here. Just to give you a general understanding, probably incredibly similar to the map that we just saw, where the darker the color, the more populated it is. You know, in our major cities of Philadelphia, New York, Boston, Miami, looks like San Diego, LA, San Francisco, Dallas. You know, we have purples there. And really, to give you a good idea, you know, a lot of Africa, you know, probably a lot in this type of area where it's very, very plain. What I mean plain is farmland, etc., etc. But theirs is for a different reason. So there's a pretty good idea, just so you have a good understanding of what, in comparison to the United States, in terms of population, what Africa really looks like. Here's a look at some of the ancient empires of Africa, and if you want to look at, and to me it's fairly obvious, but if you want to look at the ancient empires, if you can tell, they all had to stay around something that's really important, and I've emphasized a lot to you. But you can see where the Sahara Desert is, there's hardly any empires. So population started by staying around bodies of water. I'm looking at all of these, and all of them started around a specific body of water. Here's a picture of the population density throughout all of Africa as well. Very similar to the images and stuff that we have seen before, and you know, just giving you a different perspective of really what Africa looks like in its location, in terms of why people stay where they are and why they're located there. So I want to show you guys a estimated world and regional population at various times throughout the history, obviously, of the world. If you look, I'm looking at Africa right now, and this is in terms of millions of people. So with Africa, you know, I'm looking at Africa, Asia, and Europe, because we didn't start seeing civilization really start to be around in the Americas until the 1750s, around this time. But in Africa, they had 7 million people. Around 800 BCE, or 500, it is 14 million. And they have steadily grown throughout the history of the world. You know, it goes from 23 to all the way to 1750. They had 106 million people. But in comparison to Asia, you know, it's really not even a question. And then Europe, they started to boom as well. And if we start looking down, in terms of people and stuff, you know, this is still Africa. You know, it's made a pretty progressive growth all the way to to 2000, and then they finally surpassed Europe, but they're not even still they're still not even close to what Africa to Asia is. But you can see lots of people. You know, it took a little bit of time, but they started to progressively grow, grow, and grow. And we'll talk more about this later on throughout in our lessons. You know, whenever we start talking about the culture and the historical perspective on why we feel you know Africa started to grow so quick. But one thing I can tell you for sure, I'll give you a little heads up on is uh, with less impoverished areas, they were able to be able to have longer birth span of life and birth rates and so on and so forth. But people start, you know, Africa still in terms of growth, you know, still a lot, you know, still relatively behind the other countries, even though they've been here uh, 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 essentially the same amount. Okay, guys, at the end of the video, you started seeing some stuff saying by our former Vice President Al Gore. But today's assignment, what you're going to do is you're going to explain in your own words why you feel that people live in certain areas of Africa and not others. So just tell me in you know 2 or 3 sentences, and then finally the other part of the assignment is what are the projections saying about Africa? Should we be concerned living in the United States? And then I want you to defend your answer with solid reasoning. By that I mean tell me why. You just can't say because. You know, give me a good reason why we should not be concerned or we should be concerned. And think outside of the box here.